we are recording now. And at the moment, we are 5 friends of the Start Cyclotech community, and we are having the real world data meeting number 34. Yeah, hello, Mike. So wonderful to meet you again, Mike.
I'm Mike. I've been at a few of these meetings, although not lately. So I'm an independent consultant. I've been programming in Clojure for a long time, and Common Lisp before that. I work a lot on biomedical applications. I've built a website for a cancer immunotherapy research project, which I'll probably be showing off tomorrow. And I'm working on a new a similar one for another project, which involves some interesting stuff. I'm doing natural language query of graph databases. So that's what I've been working on most recently. And I'm also recently, I go back a long way, and I used to use the MIT Lisp machines, which I don't know if people here are familiar with those. This was a wonderful computing environment built, around in the 1980s. If you ever talk to an old Lisp hacker, they'll rave about how wonderful these Lisp machines were. And I every so often I dream about like recreating that kind of environment in Clojure. What was that? Why don't we have environments like that nowadays? How can we have most of the parts of that? How can we build something that actually is a good environment for people to do this kind of knowledge-based uh, you know work of analysis and synthesis. So I've been dreaming about that recently, and I can go on about that at length if anyone's interested. Yeah, so I'm just going to show off a couple of projects. So these are both done under the auspices and funding of the Parker Institute for Cancer Immunotherapy, which is a nonprofit medical research foundation that sponsors research in cancer immunotherapy, which is a relatively recent set of techniques for treating cancer by harnessing the body's own immune system. Um, and it used to be a bastion of Clojure. Three years ago, they had an informatics team which was heavily Clojure based and built a system called Candle, which was centered around atomic for an analysis of cancer. That the institute itself has been scaled back at the moment, so they don't have that anymore. But I'm still doing some work for them. So this I'm gonna show off two websites for two different projects. The first one is called Bruce, and I've actually shown this at Cyclage before. I know Daniel has seen it. I don't know if anyone else has. Um, so this is for a project in brain cancer. A big project that was centered at Stanford, involved a lot of other universities. And this is basically a website to go along with the paper to share the data and publicize the results a little bit. Um, so I've already shown this off, so I'm just gonna go through this quickly. Um, so this is a query builder that lets you. So there, this is a relatively simple data system. There's a single table of observations. Each row is basically a cell, and um, cells have various properties that they're measured. There's tons of different measurements, and this lets you compare them across various conditions. So, for instance, you can click on a tumor diagnosis, and then that specifies the x dimension here on this violin plot. So there's in this case there's four different kinds of cancer, and then there's you know hundreds of different variables you can visualize. This is visualizing one. I won't even get into what these mean because I'm not that even familiar with them. But there's a ton of different variables. Oh, that's not working. Wait a minute. That's interesting. Okay. Yeah, so there's this complicated ontology of feature types. Let's see if we can pick something different. Uh, um, so I, so now we just picked a different variable, so it's graphing a different relationship. You can filter here on various things. Let's say we're only interested in stage 4 cancers. So all of this is built in Clojure and Clojure script. You using mostly and I have my own framework that I built called Way that just sort of gives me kind of the very basic tools for building database database websites in Clojure. It includes data feed mechanism and encapsulation of Vega, a few other things. So I've been using that a lot. That's open source. I'm looking for other people who might be interested in using that. Um, See this. This isn't. This isn't. Oh, you probably can't see that because it's in a different window. Anyway. So that's the Clojure part is supporting this fairly zippy query interface. And then one feature I added to this, which will lead to the next project, is because this is fairly complicated. A user coming up to this, presumably it's aimed toward scientists, not the general public. So presumably people will know what all these terms mean, but still it's a bit overwhelming. So there's some canned queries here of questions you can answer, like find the mean intensity of EGFR expression on tumor cells in primary WHO grade 3 and 4 samples. So you pick that, it configures everything according to a fixed map. So that's one feature. Then um, it, that leads to kind of a natural language query. You can say, show me expression across uh, varying grades for glio. Let's see, with patients. So what it does, it sends this off to an LLM. That's also loaded up with kind of the schema that describes the user interface here, and hopefully it comes back with a reconfigured user interface that will answer your query. Maybe because we're dealing with LLMs, it's all very non-deterministic and slow, but it's thinking about it. Think. Well, that's maybe taking too long. Hello. All right. Well, that might be broken. Um, shouldn't take quite this long. Hmm. All right. Well, maybe that's not working today, but that'll let me go on to the next topic. Oh, and while it's thinking about that, so another kind of cool thing in this website, and this is not Clojure, but these are various samples from the experiment. You can go look at some of there's been a lot of very sophisticated spatial imaging, where you can take a sample and monitor and identify individual cells in the sample, and also what their immune state is, what proteins they're expressing on their surface, which says if they're what kind of cell they are. They might be T cells or other kinds of cells, and then what proteins are on their surface. So there's lots of very cool new technology for doing this kind of imaging. This is a system called Vitesse, which is in Python. Apologize for looking at those images and controlling them, and you can do various filters and decide what features you're going to look like. So that's that's pretty cool. That's not something that I built, but it's a nice feature of the website. Let's see if it went back to see if this got any farther. Yeah, this is well, that's not working. But that's Bruce. That's been released. The paper should be published soon, and the what actually it's publicly available at this URL. If you can see that, it's bruce.parkerici.org. So feel free to mess around with it. Um, this is a new project for a different Parker sponsored study called Radiohead, because we name all the projects after musicians. Um, so this one is slightly different. So that the Bruce was a kind of very in depth focus study on well like a few hundred patients. Radiohead is a broader study of what are called adverse events. So the main problem with immunotherapy, or one of the main problems, is that it the main trick of immunotherapy is you get the body's own immune system to attack a cancer, which when it works, that's great, but it also has the risk of causing a lot of unwanted side effects like autoimmune reactions. So Radiohead is a study of these so-called adverse events in various immunotherapies. So it's a broader study, more like 1,500 patients. And rather than doing this kind of in-depth cellular data, it's more focused on looking for statistical patterns and adverse events. Um, and then this also this site is you know it's under development, and we're not really it's not really released or polished yet. But I wanted to show off a couple of features here. So this is this is the start of a database schema. And this is displayed using a tool called Alzabo, which is open source, and I'm used it in a number of places, and I'm interested in getting other people to use it. And it's basically a very simple Clojure schema definition language. It's for identify you can define the kind of entities in your system, their attributes and relationships, and use that to generate database schemas and other things. In this case, I'm using it to generate documentation. So these are at the moment the important types of the system. The main ones are subjects, samples, and then the rest of these are ways to represent different data associated with each sample. You can go click on these and see all the fields for subjects, and this is a kind of very big class because there's just a lot of medical data being collected on all of these subjects. Um, Alphabet has a nice little search feature, so you can type a string and see here are all the classes and properties and values that contain the string gene. Uh, here's these are all different gene types that we're talking about in this data. Don't um, so anyway, this is a tool I use a lot. I'd be very happy to get other people using it also. I'm building in, it generates the atomic schemas. I'm working on having it ingest and generate GraphQL schemas, since a lot of people are using that. Um, let's see. But the cool thing here, okay, and then there's, I'm working on, a variety of displays using Vega. This is a table of showing sample availability. So in this visualization, each row here is a subject, a patient. These are the different time points in the study where we collect data. I'm sorry. These are each column here is a different biological materials. So we could collect plasma, serum, blood. P, PBMC is a particular sampling technique. I don't even remember what that stands for. Um, and then the dots just show you how many samples are available for that patient, and you can kind of click on those to dive in. I'm not quite sure why we have so many samples. This shows the the samples for that particular thing. So this is again this pretty simple visualization, just showing data availability. It kind of shows how some of the components of Wave, Vega, and the grid and stuff can be connected. Um, let's see. Here's another one of the. So X50 is a particular measurement technique. I won't get into that, but this shows the relationship between two again two indicators on cells, different mark different cell surface proteins, and a dot here is a particular sample, and it shows the how many cells in the sample have this versus this other thing, and then you can check, you can select different readings and show their relationship. Oops. And then you can select those and see a little bit more in depth what the data looks like. Um, Again, pretty basic stuff. Um, so then this is the cool thing that I've been working on like just recently, and so I'm hoping it works. So this is a natural language query interface. So one problem in all these systems is how do you make the data accessible to an end user who's not a programmer, might be put off by complexity. And in the past, I've built like kind of complicated visual query builders to let people define complicated queries over graph databases. Nowadays, though, I'm exploring natural language, since we have these LLMs that can do kind of cool things. So again, this is kind of like the interface in Bruce, although the one in Bruce was generating uh, kind of UI configurations. This one's generating datomic queries directly. So let's see, let's this one. So show me all subjects who have a pre-treatment PBMC sample. Goes again, thinks a while. Hopefully, this one's going to be working. Hopefully, there we go. Um, So it returned a table. There's what 81 results in here. So each of these rows is a patient, and all this information associated with them. But it did that by generating this datomic query. So there's a datomic database behind this, and it says to you find the subject where um, the subject has a sample. That sample has a material is PBMC, and the time point is pre-treatment. So it's a sample from before the immunotherapy started. So that's uh, that's pretty nice. And I'm even tells you its thought processes. I'm not sure how much of this I want to include in the final interface, but it's interesting for me. Um, some other queries. So let's see. So male patients over age 70 with skin cancer. Constraint on the age variable here, so it knows how to do this. Um, One thing it didn't do here is so this isn't quite right. There's actually, and here, this is starting to get into, how do we make this understand the ontology a little bit better. It's returning patients that are tagged with this a non-melanoma skin cancer, but I asked for all skin cancer. So let's see, which includes melanoma. So let's see if I can make it do better with or let's say with any skin cancer. See if see if that changes a little bit. So again, there's an LLM behind this. It's open AI, um, and I'm still, like many programmers, I'm still trying to figure out how to use that. Oh, and this time it got an error. Why did it get an error? No source path. Oh, that's interesting. Um, yeah, here it failed. Okay, it's trying to do what I wanted it to do, which was do an OR between melanoma and non-melanoma skin cancer, but it didn't format it right. That's not actually how you express it, or in Datomic. So have to work on that. Um, anyway, that's about all I want to show. I just got this working the last couple of days, and I'm still, lots of tweaks to do. Tweaks need to be done. Um, but I'm pretty convinced that stuff like this, well, as somebody who spent a lot of my career building, very complicated user interfaces for letting people specify, complex queries over data. I think this technique is going to replace that because it's just more flexible. And actually, and one another thing I have a system called Inflame, which I don't know if I showed up here. That's a visual query builder for databases very much like this, where you can kind of compose a query with visual elements. So one thing I'm thinking of is trying to combine these techniques. So you could use natural language to specify a query, and then that that that's kind of the most natural way for people to use systems like this. They can ask a question. Let's say and then instead of generating the query directly, say it generates this visual representation, which is a kind of a structure of blocks, like a scratch blocks, if you know that language. And then the user can edit it in the visual mode, and that seems to combine like the best of both worlds. So that's another technique I may end up exploring. Anyway, that's about it. Any questions, comments, criticisms? Oops.
Thank you so much, Mike. I'm so glad you could talk about it today, because tomorrow it will all be like brief lightning presentations, and so it makes so much, it matters so much to just dive into the details for a moment. So we have
Yeah.
time for questions if anybody wishes to comment or ask anything. And it looks like you're solving user interface problems, which are actually quite general, even though the solution is specialized. Is that right?
Yeah, well, that's right. I'm always doing that because I'm not actually a scientist. I think in terms of types and classes and data.
Hmm.
So yeah, all of these tools are pretty general, and I'm thinking of can I package this as a general tool that you could point to any database. Um, so yeah, I was doing that.
Yeah, and is there a wish to generalize, in this case, to make it somehow available for general cases, if it makes sense?
Yeah, always a wish. Yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I'd be very happy for any of these tools to be reused by me or other people. Oh, but by the way, I wanted to ask you how much for the conference tomorrow. How much time do we actually have for presentations?
I think 5 minutes would be ideal, because a few people may wish to share something. So it will be mostly about pointing and helping people notice that something exists. And then we can encourage them to hear you more in other meetings. But hopefully there will be a couple of questions afterwards. So it will be hopefully like 5 minutes you talking and then somebody asking a brief question and then we move on. So just so that we can have a few voices like that.
Yeah.
It will be a bit crowded tomorrow, we're hoping. Like about 30 people did say they would join, maybe at least 20 will be there, I'm hoping. And so it will be mostly about a conversation about how we can, support each other, create these community spaces where different companies and individuals are involved and so on. So yeah, yeah. Do you wish to say a little more about the internals, about the way your choices in representing these things with closure?
Sure. Let's see. What can I say? So, like I said, I have this package of tools that I've developed that I'm using called Way, which is pretty minimal. It's the just contains sort of web components that I use a lot, including Vega, this AG grid. It's got some macros and tooling for building dynamic Vega data visualizations, and a mechanism for just transmitting data from the back end to the client. I apologize for if you hear that dog in the background. Um, so it's pretty minimal. I've thought about using some of the Cycloge tools, but Way is doing most of the basic stuff that I need. In this case, um, I'm using Datomic and Datalog as you can see. Um, partly because that's well, you know the question for this particular thing was what there needs to be a a language for representing the schema, and that you transmit to the LLM. The LLM can understand and it can use to generate the queries. So I could have tried doing that in SQL, and but it turns out Datomic is pretty compact. It's easy to you can include um, natural language hints in the schema, and it also fit neatly with all the other tooling. So that proved to be interesting. Then there's Alzabo is probably the which I was talked about before is actually a pretty important tool since that again it's not rocket science. It's a collection of tools that let me do things with schemas. So I can there's an EDN language for defining all of this stuff. I can show that off. It's pretty similar to RDF. If people use that, it's basically just says here are the kinds of entities you have, their attributes, their relationships. Um, so just having a nice compact Clojure representation of that is very handy for me. It lets me use that to generate generate the queries. Part of the user interface can then be uh, generated by data. I can show off something else here. So this is another this is a more conventional query mechanism. So this is to look at the patient data. So you can it's been a while since I used this. So you can, let's see. So all of the fields for patient are brought out to the user interface. This is all generated, data driven from the schema. So if the schema changes, as it's as likely to do, my code doesn't have to change very much. It's all being driven from the data. Let's see. Actually, let me reload this. Um, been a while since I've used this. This was done before the natural language stuff, and this a more conventional UI for doing a data thing. So this is this is showing all of the patients um, split up by their diagnosis. So this is melanoma, and then it's colored by stage. But we could also change that. Let's say we're interested in ethnicity. Now we can see how the oh actually that's just Hispanic versus not. Let's see race. Race is more diverse. This shows the study, kind of overly white, but then in this case there's some significant visible African Americans with this particular diagnosis. You can change how it's fast. Actually, you can change the display in other ways. Let's say it's too many variables here. So this interface is no good, and you needs need some polish. And here you can facet the display by which site. There's like about a dozen different sites where this data was collected. This is Kansas City. I can barely read that. Um, and then you can choose another field to filter on. Let's say we're only interested in let's see. Yeah, definitely needs let's say we're only interested in stage 4 and 3 cancers, the more serious ones. Anyway, um, so all of that. Again, this is a pretty standard user interface, but it's all based on data definitions in Alice Bow, and then the UI toolkit in Way. So building stuff like this is pretty trivial and straightforward. So
I just have a basic question. Why did you choose Vega instead of any of the any other protein library?
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
Why did you choose Vega instead of another plugin library?
Uh, I've just I used it a lot. It's it's flexible. It's declarative. It maps well into because it's everything is done through these defined through these JSON maps. It's very easy to map into Clojure. So when I'm generating bits of it from data from Clojure, it's a pretty natural transformation. Um, I'm not and I've just used it for a long time. I haven't don't have any super super strong allegiance to it. Do you have another package you prefer? Or?
Not really. It's just that the table plot library has developed like another backend first, like Plotly.
No.
Um, I know it's also targeting Vega, but I was just wondering why would prefer one over the other.
Yeah, I can't say I've done a thorough evaluation of all of them, but Vega just kind of fits into Clojure and my environment rather nicely. So I've been fairly happy with it. Also got it working in interactive mode pretty well. So um, but yeah, no strong preference for it. And it's well it's and it's well documented. Oh, and that's one thing I want to do, and this may um so the natural language query stuff right now is just generating these tabular views, but I want to experiment with the same technique for generating visualization, so users can specify natural language. Oh, show me a dot plot how these two variables relate to each other, and have it just spit out Vega specifications. Um, that's and I'm not sure how this would compare in other libraries, but because Vega is kind of very compact and declarative, I expect that I can kind of see how that might work. Haven't really done the experiment yet, but it would fit kind of naturally into this world.
Yeah, just have to say it looks very impressive how nicely interactive the plots are. How you can link them to the data presentation to the site and adjust what part of the data is being shown by interacting with the plot.
Yeah. Mike, would it be okay to share a few of the libraries you mentioned, which are available openly? This tool for working with schemas that you mentioned, is it something that
Yeah,
is...
that's called Alzabo. That's open source.
Yeah.
See if we can.
Yeah, we can share links later on in the chat if that makes sense. And yeah, thanks. Do we have any more thoughts or comments about that? About Radiohead and so on? Oh, Alzabo. Oh, and that was part of the Candle project.
That's right. Yeah, and this was the candle schema. This also for cancer immunotherapy. This was kind of more elaborate schema that was supposed to encompass like all the different studies being done at Parker.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is and so a lot of the tools from Parker have been open sourced under the Candle Bio it's organization. Let's see what else do we have here actually. Um, there's there's Alzabo. Multi-tool is my library of utilities, which I don't know. I imagine everybody has their own. That's mine. Blockoid is that so that's tooling under Inflame. Let's see. So um, well that's a tool for building these kind of block-based visual languages that I was talking about. Um, Mantis Viewer is an image viewer. Raw Sugar is a raw data handling platform. Pret is a ETL data import tool for getting tabular data into atomic databases. And Flame. No, not these are not all my creations because there was a team behind here. But in Flame, I was talking about before. Is there really no picture here? That's annoying. Let's see. Surely, hang on. Sorry. Do, 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 do.
Yeah, and maybe it makes sense to return to some of these
Yeah.
on another time because
Yeah.
it looks like there is so much to learn about these existing projects that are maybe unfamiliar to most of us. And yeah, so I'm so glad that you could share a bit of that. And maybe just a thought is that so many things you've mentioned could be good proposals for talks for the upcoming conferences, as much as you are open to proposing a talk. And one thing which will be a challenge, I mean, with all talk proposals, is how to make a proposal and a talk which are somehow shared in a usable way. Ideally, we like reproducible notebooks as a way of sharing code and the results of code, but with interactive tools, sometimes we need other ways to share things so that others will be able to use them. So anyway, I'm mentioning that for everybody here, I believe, because I hope everybody here will propose talks for the conferences, for both of them. And let us keep thinking about that.